Now, rabies is a fatal viral disease that can be transmitted between animals and from animals to humans. Animals and people can become infected when bitten by a rabid or infected animal. And this morning, we're going to be talking to Dr. Nigel Loha, a veterinary officer at the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, about the ministry's vaccination drive against this viral disease. Dr. Loha, good morning.
Good morning, Kimberly.
All right, so I gave just an overview about what rabies is, but of course, how is it transmitted locally? Because I know sometimes we think about bats. Is that one of the most common ways?
Yes, well, the vector for rabies in Trinidad is the vampire bat. There are two species of vampire bats. The common vampire bat, which is Desmodus rotundus,
right,
or the white-winged vampire bat, which is Dismias youngi. And these two bats are the only bats that they're not protected by law. They are considered vermin as a result. So they could be eradicated,
right,
but it's impossible to do that.
Right. Why is it impossible to do that?
Well, I mean, these bats live in roosts. They live in the hollows of trees, caves. We have extensive forests that it will be impossible to eradicate them. But we have certain measures in place to decrease the population, because right now we have an overpopulation.
Right. Now, I know usually around the world, I know sometimes the rabies can also be transmitted, let's say, through raccoons. Any other local pets or animals we have here that can also transmit the rabies disease?
No, well, throughout the world, rabies is transmitted usually by a carnivorous vector.
Right.
Well, in the States, it's raccoon, weasel, skunk. Trinidad, it's vampire bats. In Grenada, it is mongoose. For some reason, we don't have it in the mongoose population in Trinidad, but we have it in the vampire bats. So that's the main vector that transmits it in Trinidad.
So I know that you said that we can't eradicate it, but of course, if you see a vampire bat, it's okay to get rid of it.
No, well, it's not really okay for you to do that, right? You're supposed to leave that alone, keep your distance, because a high percentage of them carry the virus in the saliva. So you don't want to come close. When you see a wild animal, you should be very wary. You don't know the temperament of the animal. You don't know if it will be aggressive or if it will be docile. You don't know if it will run to you or it will run away. And you don't know what disease it will be carrying. So you keep your distance. But if you do contact this animal, what is recommended is that you go straight to the pipe. If it scratch or bite you, scrub it, wash it with soap and water for 15 minutes under the pipe, and immediately contact your county veterinarian, which is, I'm the veterinarian for St. George West.
Right.
And then you could refer to your personal doctor. Now then I will report that to the veterinary public health department, in order that they would contact the person to protect human life.
Right.
And in that case, you might have to get a post-exposure vaccination.
Well, let's go back a bit. Let's talk about these symptoms. So, for example, if you are bitten, or if one of your livestock is bitten by this vampire bat, what are some of the symptoms in animal and people? Is it similar?
Yeah, similar, because it's a disease, it's an acute viral encephalomyelitis, which means a disease, inflammation of the central nervous system. So that you will see signs of central nervous system disease, both man and animal.
Right. And what does that look like?
No, well, usually, in bovine, which we have bovine rabies in Trinidad, you see ascending paralysis. Usually might start from the hind legs, from where it's bitten, and it will move up the system, and you see the incoordination, staggering. Usually there's paralysis of different organs, so the throat is paralyzed, it's unable to swallow water or eat food, and you see foaming on the mouth. That is what we will describe as hydrophobia.
Right.
Right. In dogs, which we don't have in Trinidad, which is canine rabies, it has been eliminated since 1914.
Good.
Right. So good thing for that, because that the amount of stray dogs that will be a problem.
Yes.
With dogs, usually the dogs become very aggressive, which we call it rabid.
Right.
And they will look to make an unprovoked attack to anything, bite anything, and that is usually a sign. Then eventually they would succumb to the illness due to paralysis and die. But during that period, they could bite a number of other dogs and maybe even people.
Right. And in humans, is it that, for example, if you get bitten on your hand, is it that your hand is going to be paralyzed? Are you going to see any kind of swelling, rash, anything like that?
Yeah, you will. Because of the bite, you will see swelling, but that is not the danger. The danger is that the viral load from the bite, from the saliva, would move from cell to cell, and eventually reach a peripheral nerve in your hand, and then it will go all the way up until it reaches the spinal column, and then it will ascend the spinal column, eventually reaching the brain. Then you will see all kinds of symptoms of nervous symptoms and aggressive behavior, change of temperament and all that, and paralysis and all.
Wow. So what I was trying to get at the beginning when I asked, if you see this thing, can you get rid of it? Is it that we just have to vaccinate against it? There's nothing we can do if we see this vampire bat at all?
No, you mean when you see the vampire bat?
Well, just run away from it. Keep your distance.
Because you're not vaccinated for rabies.
Right.
I am vaccinated. Because I'm within a high-risk group. I'm a veterinarian.
Right.
But the average person is not vaccinated for rabies. So when you see a bat, keep your distance from it. And you are not unable to distinguish which is a vampire bat, or which is a fruit-eating bat, or which is a insect-eating bat. You won't be able to distinguish. And you have to come real close to distinguish.
To see exactly which one it is.
Right, so keep your distance. Any wildlife, keep your distance. Wildlife is to observe from a distance and enjoy it. Don't be like Steve Irwin trying to
Exactly. Don't be adventurous with it.
No,
doctor. Yeah. Now, how can it be prevented? Because I know that the ministry has a vaccination drive. So let's get into that right now.
No, well, rabies is 100%, it is fatal once clinical signs show, but it's 100% preventable using the different methods by vaccination. So what we try to do is vaccinate. Remember, rabies is a zoonose, meaning that it occurs in both humans and animals, and it can be spread from animals to humans. So to protect human life and to protect animal life, we need to vaccinate all susceptible animals in Trinidad. Right now, we're on a major drive. We have recently employed about 12 new enthusiastic veterinarians from School of Veterinary Medicine. And we have them on this contract to try to vaccinate the entire susceptible population in Trinidad, with its sheep, goat, buffalo, cows, hunting dogs. Right? And so far we have visited 160 farms and vaccinated 4,000 animals so far.
Right. Are there any risks associated with the vaccination?
No, there's no risk at all related to the vaccination.
So, for example, we know with the COVID vaccine, there was some pain at the injection site, maybe a bit of a numbness. The animals do not experience any of those sort of symptoms.
No, well, they never told me.
You're a dog whisperer, Dr. Noah. I didn't know that. All right, but again, so we are on the vaccination drive. But if your animal does get bitten by a bat and they are infected, can they be saved? I mean, can they still go through a vaccination process to be saved?
Well, that's an interesting question. Yes, it could be done.
Yeah.
Suppose it could be done, but usually it's maybe not worth it. Usually, livestock, sheep, goat, and all that, the vaccination is the main thing.
That's the main thing, yeah.
And once that is done, we do the post-vaccine exposure vaccination mainly for human beings, because the average person like yourself that would not be vaccinated.
Right. But the average person like me could be vaccinated if you want to.
Well, we usually keep it for high-risk group. When is it like you get like vampire?
So then when you say high risk, you mean veterinarians, those who are also always dealing with animals?
Yeah, who deal with animals. Yeah.
Okay.
Like dogs, especially dogs, maybe an exotic vet. Or, like for instance, we have an anti-rabies unit who deal totally with bats. They have to be vaccinated.
So dog trainers?
Dog trainer probably could.
Right, yeah.
That's something to investigate. But mainly like people who own hunting dogs.
Right, yes.
Hunting dogs have to be vaccinated because they're always in the forest.
Right.
And once you're in the forest, even if you overnight in the forest, you're at a high risk of being bitten.
Of course.
Because once the bats are a very amazing species animal, because they are the only mammal that feeds totally on blood. Like Dracula, totally on blood. So they have no choice but to feed every night on a blood meal.
Yeah.
So if you have lying down there, your toes exposed, and they don't have to go too far, they will
come and bite you.
Yeah, or they'll bite your dogs.
Yes, yeah. So then can pregnant animals be vaccinated as well?
Yes, yeah, they should too.
Yeah, okay, all right. And then is it that the ministry is doing an appointment-based system?
It's basically first come, first serve. Right now, people should take the opportunity to call in, and because this drive will be done maybe in about next 3 months. And by that time, we hope to vaccinate the entire population in Trinidad.
Right.
Once that is done, the animals will be immunized for the next 3 years. And there would basically be no chance of an outbreak taking place.
So is there a possibility that an outbreak can take place if we don't get the numbers that we need to get vaccinated?
Well, the way it's going now, it's hardly likely that will happen because it's going very well.
So people have been calling, making those appointments,
Yes.
and the vets are going out and vaccinating?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But we had outbreaks in the past many years because this is a disease has been around in cattle since 1925.
Locally?
Yeah, locally.
Okay.
And we had an outbreak in 1997, 2000, 2010, 2012, and last year, 2022.
Okay. What do you think caused that one, especially last year? Was it because of the pandemic? I mean, people were home, so how was there an outbreak?
No, well, I don't think it was related to that. Usually outbreaks are caused due to things like overpopulation of the bats, which is what's happening.
Right.
Right? Overpopulation of the bats, people moving into the forested areas, farming in the forest. Actually, you're bringing the food closer to the bats, right? The livestock. Deforestation.
Yes.
When you deforest the natural habitat, you remove the wildlife from the natural habitat. So you remove deer, peccary, agouti, lap, and all those things that they'll normally feed on.
Right.
So they have no choice to feed on what is available, which will be your pet or your cow, sheep, or whatever.
And the service that the ministry is offering, it's free?
Yeah.
Okay, and they are coming to you in your location to vaccinate your livestock,
you
right?
All you have to do is call.
Right.
And they'll show up, and they will vaccinate free. They will also tag the animals.
Right, good. So at least you know which ones are vaccinated.
Yes.
And is there a limit to the number that can be vaccinated at a particular location?
No, there's no limit. The only limit is the number of vaccines we have.
There's a limit on it?
No, well, everything is limited. if the resources...
No, but I mean, if it is, we're saying that we may have an overpopulation of the bats, I was just wondering how we can curb it. How
No,
we can
well, this is up to the ministry to supply the funding to make sure that we have all the equipment and all the vaccines we need to vaccinate the population, because one vial would vaccinate about 10 animals.
Okay, good.
If we have a limited amount, it's only that amount we could vaccinate.
We could do. And how long is the drive taking place?
This drive will probably go on for the next 3 months.
Okay, good. Now, it's interesting.
But let me tell you the phone number. The phone number is 398-3515. Everybody please call this number so we can get the drive going and complete our job.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Loha, one of the interesting things, of course, is that you mentioned there's a lot of bats, right? And people have been moving into the forested areas and that kind of thing. Is there any one specific area of the country where we see more of these vampire bats, or where people might be more at risk?
Well, usually when the outbreaks of the past, when we see any minor or major outbreaks in the past, usually it's the peninsula, the southwest peninsula, like Penal area, Cedars area, those areas. Northwest, like Toko areas, those areas seem to get, you tend to have outbreaks in those areas. Yeah. Maybe more forested or rural areas.
And have we been seeing any sort of increase in cases since we started the vaccination drive, or are we okay as it stands now?
In cases of rabies?
Of rabies,
no, we haven't, since last year we have not been seeing any. So we're trying to make sure that it doesn't,
that we
what happened last year wouldn't happen this year.
All right.
It shouldn't happen for the next 3 years, at least.
At least.
And then we will continue the process. But rabies vaccination is something that we have always been doing, ongoing, and we usually we color code, we give it the animals tags.
Right.
So we know which year it was done last.
Right.
This year I believe we're using yellow tags, so we know that
it has been vaccinated.
This year.
And before we go, Dr. Loha, just remind me of that number again to call to get our animals vaccinated.
Well, the number is 398-3515.
398-3515. Dr. Loha, thank you so much for coming in and sharing about the vaccination drive that the ministry is doing. And I hope everybody who's listening would call the number, of course, those who have livestock at risk. So thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
And that was Dr. Nigel Loha, a veterinary officer at the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, just updating us about the ministry's rabies vaccination drive. On the Now Morning Show, we're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.